the things that I'm angry about are, all about politics, and it just doesn't do any good to be angry about politics anymore. I think we're all of us, whether we realize it or not, have been very quickly taken over by corporations and oligarchs. And everyone's like, okay, I guess that's the way it is. And it makes me really angry. I mean, that just like that.
What do you feel about it? If not, it is what it is.
I look, one of the things I've realized is that it's not appropriate for me to try to change things that I don't have any power over. And people will tell you that, well, I did everything I was supposed to do. I voted, I talked to people, I put out messages that I thought were really empowering for people so they can understand what was going on.
Understandable.
Yeah.
What if you've done everything that you can reasonably do, what do you do, or what does someone like you do? Like what is there left to do?
Well, there's the good old rant, which is always helpful to get things out. I think that, one of the things that I really care about is the environment as a former environmental justice lawyer. And then I care about the environment, not just because I love nature and I want to keep things beautiful and healthy, but also because I used to represent community groups. And the people that get affected by the environment are first people who are the most vulnerable. And so one of the things that I did is I started a little YouTube channel where I'm just talking about some of the issues and the ways that we can live sustainably. And I saw a video or a documentary the other day about it's this guy who's a professor of sustainability. He's been around for a long time, for decades. And he's come to the conclusion that there's no way we're going to stop the environmental degradation. And so his name is Jeb Bendel. And he says that there's a lot of power in accepting things as they are. Like, stop hoping that something is going to come and save us. Like, technology isn't going to save the environment. And we could say this the same about politics. Like nobody's going to come in and save us. So start there. And then what can you be doing? And the things that you can do when you give up hope, and this is kind of a Buddhist way of looking at things. You have people that have hope and you have people who don't have hope. It's the same coin, right? On one side are, I'm hoping things will change. And then there's the other side of the nihilism, like nothing will ever change. Just give up both and be the person who lives outside of hope and just living inside this moment. What can I do right now? How can I feel power right now? And I like that because what that does is it gives you some autonomy to just be the person you want to be. So I don't want to be a person who, for example, uses a nonprofit 501c3 as a way to steal money from people, which is why everything we do here is free, even though we're not being funded right now by anybody except for me. And that gives us a lot of freedom to just do what I think is the right thing to do, which is there should be stuff that's for free for people. Anyway, the other thing that you can do is find, joy in these little things that you feel power in. And the example, I made a video the other day for this YouTube channel. The example that I came up with was I have 2 cats and I've been trying to keep them inside because of the bird flu. I don't want them to get the bird flu. And they kill birds. So I don't want them to kill birds. So I thought, well, I need to get them something that they can play on so that they have, something to do. And I started to look on Amazon for one of those like cat tower things, right? And then I thought, first of all, do I need to be shopping on Amazon? Because how I feel about Jeff Bezos right now. And then do I need to be buying something? And I realized, they're cardboard boxes that they have plenty of fun in, and baskets for my laundry and things like that. So why not just put stuff like that around the house that they can, with some toys and a blanket in it, and they're perfectly happy. So, and I look at those cat tree things that they sell on Amazon or Wayfair or whatever, and they inevitably, I don't know how many times I've seen one of those things like on the side of the road, right? Like nobody wants them, and they're all mangled up because the cat's been like scratching them. So those little things that make me really happy, like, okay, I can do that. I don't have to be, buying future dumpster stuff, and I don't have to be buying stuff from Amazon, and just those little things. That's what we have right now.
When do you feel, I don't remember it always being, because it definitely wasn't, because we didn't have Amazon and we didn't have next day shipping. But like, when was that shift where like marketing just got so good and technology got so good that we just got attuned to just like having it tomorrow? Like almost the thought, like I'll get the new cat thing, and then it's like, well, I can have it tomorrow too. And so it's just so easy to just, one, kind of add to the waste problem by buying stuff we don't really need, just because the thought alone just kind of gives us that dopamine, and then we have access to it too. It's like the ultimate source of instant gratification versus, I don't know, pre-Amazon, I guess, where like you actually had to go to the store and you actually had to go look, or like you just had to say, I'm not going to spend all day out running errands and shopping, and then just like make something. Like what?
Yeah.
Do you remember? Do you remember what it was like before Amazon? Like
Yes,
it
I
almost
do.
seems like too like I know there was a time, and I lived during that time. It just seems like I don't. It's very difficult to, like I told you that story with my kids having to watch the commercials. I
Make it
sat there. I was
stop.
like, when was the last time I watched commercials?
Yeah, I've seen kids literally cry, like, make it stop. Why? Why? Yes, I remember a time when there were 3 channels you could watch on TV. You had to, I remember before it was color TV, you had to be there in front of the TV when it was happening. If you had to go to the bathroom or something, you had to wait for the commercial. You had to sit through the commercial. Just being able to, like, on YouTube, even though you have to sit through, like, 5 seconds of a commercial, you still have that power to click it off, so you don't have to watch the whole thing. But yeah, before, you had to, first of all, you had to go to the bank and get cash. The credit card thing wasn't that big of a deal. It was something like your dad had, so you had to go to the bank and you had to stand in line and get the little form and fill it out and go to the teller. So I remember, before ATMs. And then, if you wanted something, you didn't have the option to go and, you know, check prices everywhere. It was like you went to one store and you hoped they had it, and then you just bought it if you could afford it. And there wasn't that kind of freedom. Um, I have a really kind of funny story to tell you too. Uh, I was in law school, so it was in the mid '90s. There was a guy who used to work for AT&T, and Ted West was his name. And he got this really great idea. This is pre-internet exploding. That wouldn't it be great if we had a catalog where it would have all the 800 numbers for all of these companies. So if you wanted to research a product, you could go through this catalog and they would have pictures and things like that. And then it would have the 800 number. So you could research like cars or things like that. And then my job was to call up companies and ask them to advertise in it so that they could, have this catalog. So it was like the yellow pages, if you know about the yellow pages, but it was for 800 numbers. And then it was a slick, like glossy magazine. So we worked on that for like a year and a half, and I was the best salesperson. I sold the most ads. And then the internet hit, and it became the stupidest idea that anybody ever had because nobody cared. Like, what do you do with a bunch of 800 numbers when you can just go and click, click, click. So I think things are happening much faster now than they were. There was a period of time. I mean, I remember signing up for Twitter in the early 2000s and nobody was on. I mean, literally, I was tweeting to my friends saying, "Hey, are you there?" And they were tweeting back like, "Hey, Jennifer." Because it was like you had 2 or 3 people that were following you. It wasn't like this massive thing. Um, and I think things are happening very quickly. And I love technology. I don't think technology is a bad thing. But I think that we are, just like we are with the oligarchs, I don't want to forget them. We're riding on the back of the chariot, is how I see it. Like the chariot is going really fast. And there are a few people that are driving that chariot, and the rest of us are hanging on like with the rope, like bouncing along behind it. That's how I see us. And I'm really mad about that.
I remember maybe being in elementary school and they had like these magazines would come out like not like a normal magazine, almost maybe like 2 or 3 times the thickness. And it'd have like school supplies, toys, clothes. It'd have everything, almost like a
Mhm.
Costco. And like I guess Costco still makes those. Like, well, companies still make them, but they used to be kind of like a big deal because every year they'd come around. And I lived in kind of a rural area at the time, so like you'd get these magazines. It was like this, I don't know, it's like basically like the internet for me. Might as well have been. And you'd go through and you'd kind of, my parents would give me one and they'd have one, and you'd kind of circle everything that you wanted, and
Mhm.
then you'd go back through and cross out the things that you didn't really want because we had to save a little bit, and you'd like make like just a big order every year, and then the stuff would come like I don't know how many months later. Like, oh, but by
Mhm.
the time it came, you forgot you even like wanted the stuff.
Right.
But now it's tomorrow, or I don't know. Amazon does this thing where it's like you get it at 4 a.m. Like I ordered new boxers the other day, and they came the next day 4 a.m. And I was just thinking
Open
that's
your
that's
door.
that's great, but what do you think the long-term effects of that are on, I think, younger people, especially, where maybe they never had to wait a month to get something. And I don't mean that in like, the younger generations can't wait, they're impatient.
Mhm.
I don't mean that, but just like that brain, that that neural pathway was never really, there was never even a need for it because everything is there. You can stream it now, you can order it now, you can do this now. What do you think the implications of that are?
There is a book by I can't Anna Lemke, I think her name is, and she's a neuroscientist at Stanford, I believe, and it's called Dopamine Nation. And she talks about how dopamine works, and it's very interesting because dopamine makes us feel good, but dopamine is also um, a reward uh, hormone neurotransmitter that when you are anticipating something, it makes you feel good. And what she says is that if you're anticipating something, you get it kind of right away and you get that immediate boost, you're really training your brain to kind of go for that big intense feeling. So, but as good as that feels to look at something on Amazon and then say, and with the drones that maybe they're testing and that's what people are seeing, the aliens or whatever, but there's drones now that can come directly to your house. It may be like ordering something, like ordering a pizza, within a half an hour or something, you get that thing. So you're getting that anticipation, that dopamine hit very quickly. And then what she says happens is that that dopamine goes up and your brain doesn't like that. It doesn't like immediate like rush of good feelings. It wants to get back into balance. So as good as you feel is as bad as you're now going to feel. So that anticipation that feels really great, I'm so excited, I'm going to get it. And then you get it and then you're crashing down on the other side. So it's like a seesaw. So if you go up like this, the other side has to come down. And she uses it in examples around drug use. That if you do something that makes you feel like, you do cocaine, you do a hit of cocaine, and you feel really good, that the crash afterwards has to kind of match how bad that feels. So now you're on the seesaw and you feel so bad. So you do something so you can feel good again. And now you just go back and forth and back and forth. And that's what is part of what causes drug addiction. So we're doing that with social media. We're doing that with that instant gratification of, ordering something and getting it right away, all of that. So the danger, according to her, is that you are constantly off balance and you're really driving yourself into depression because your brain, you keep having to do more of the thing. So if you felt really good because you ordered, the paper towels that you needed and it made you feel good, but now you feel really bad. Now the next time you have to order something that's going to make you feel even better. Like I'm going to order, that chocolate cake that I really kind of feel like I want to have right now. So I'm going to order that chocolate cake. And now, so the more you up, the more you go down. And that could be one of the reasons why people get really depressed in the modern age. I mean, you're messing with your chemical balance, literally. Does that make sense to you? I mean,
Yeah, and it's the same thing has been something I've been struggling with for the last couple of weeks. I've tried to kind of make a couple of YouTube videos on it because I've been noticing. So we've kind of gone through the hero's journey and our personal hero's journey and how you kind of go from maybe your rock bottom to you kind of figure some stuff out. Your life is better. You start helping other people. And I'm kind of at the place where my life looks a lot better. And I keep wondering why. Like I have a tendency towards depression and I have a tendency to get, not like it is what it is or realistic, but like almost to the point where it's not helpful anymore.
uh-huh.
And I wonder like, okay, everything's going good. Like relationship good, kids good, everything's better than it was. But then all of a sudden, almost without any spark, like I'll get back into like, like I'll wake up and I'll just be in a mood. I'll wake up and I'll be back into like a time that I was depressed or anxious for no real reason. And I think I've been struggling with this idea of can you beat like if things get better, like can they just be better? And can you maintain that level of internal good feeling if I can just simply just call it that? Or do you always have to kind of fight for those good feelings or sacrifice something to get something or go through those downs to have the ups? And I think the more that I've been thinking about it is kind of, we talked about duality in our last episode. And I was thinking maybe the answer isn't that, it's not to beat the ups and downs, but to be able to have space for the ups and downs so that you don't go crazy as you're experiencing them.
Okay, give me an example of what you mean by that.
So, well, the easiest one is always with my relationship. So Selena and I are like having a good week. And this is just an example, but we're having a good week. We're joking. We're spending time together. The kids are good. And then like everything's great, perfect relationship. And then one of us says something that's just a little off, just in nothing huge, just like said it the wrong way, wrong tone. Boom, immediate 3 bad days, just boom, boom, boom. Just bad, bad, bad. Like can't recuperate from this one little thing. And then there's a period of time where it's like, okay, like we kind of got over it. Maybe the next 3 days or something, we're kind of getting over it. The 7th day, we're kind of back where we were. And then, all right, we have a great week again.
Yeah.
But it was like, we have such a good thing going on. And then like this one little thing happens and it makes me feel like, is it to that extent where like it has to balance out like that, that concretely? Like if I have 7 good days, do I have to have 7 bad days?
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to think my way out of it, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure there is. So then I come to this place where it's like, okay, just a bad couple of days. It's not really about what was said. It's not about the good days either. It's just the fact that they both have to happen.
Yes, they do. But I think what you're observing is really interesting. And I kind of laugh because, I had this realization probably around my early 40s that as good as I felt in a situation, I was inevitably going to feel just as bad later on about it. And I first realized this around drinking alcohol. And I've never been like an alcoholic or anything like that, but I drank alcohol I started drinking very young because I was away at school. There was nobody cared. This is when I was smoking and drinking. I was like 14 years old, and and as you get older, you can't handle the alcohol as well, and you whatever, you feel it more. And I started to realize that for a while, like if I went to a party and I had a super great fun time, I was okay with the fact that I was not going to feel that great the next day, that it was going to be equal because I had such a good time. And then I got to the point where I realized, well, it's going to balance out, I'll have a good time. And then I got to the point where I feel worse. Like it's not worth drinking because it's not worth how bad I'm going to feel later on. And I think that's partly just age, you just feel it more and you just don't have the tolerance for it. But I find that with other things, which is what you're talking about too. And this is where what I was talking about earlier about this Buddhist quote thing comes in. You have to find a place to live that's in between, which means giving up some of the woohoo, I feel so happy now kind of feeling, so that you don't also feel like that, oh my God, I feel so bad kind of feeling. You live in that space in between where great, and I'm enjoying this moment and it's okay, and great, I'm not enjoying this moment and it's okay. That's that middle ground.
You know what I'm really interested to hear what you think. I remember maybe it might have been my son's first birthday or maybe some time before that. And my wife is like her level of excitement and happiness exceeds my capacity to be excited and happy just by a lot. And I remember telling her one day, like you have to stop being so happy, like because you'll always and I kind of said the same thing. As for as happy as you get, you're gonna get just as sad. So it's better if you just. I said it's such like a stick in the mud. I was like, so you just don't feel anything.
What did she say? She's like, stop stomping on my happiness.
She was very mad for a while about that.
Mhm.
And ironically, I was mad at her for being that way. She was kind of mad at me for being the way that I am.
Mhm.
But I think the way that we are, there's balance between the two of us.
Mhm.
And so, especially when it comes to raising the kids, I think that balance ends up being good, because if it's all me, then it's all, it's like an army. It's barracks in the house all the time. If it's with her, we're staying up late and we're eating whatever. So the
Mhm.
balance is good. But
That's good.
where I was going with it, um, where was I going with it? So that dynamic, I feel like it leads everything to almost like gray.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like there's color in life, there's good, there's highs, there's low, but if you have to ride that middle, and it's fun because I believe that too, but I almost don't like the belief, because I think about work, and when I get excited about work and making content, and I guess because you create content too, sometimes it's all great. Like I'm so excited. I'm creating what I want to create. It's super interesting. And then sometimes the next week or the next month, it'll be like, I don't even know why I'm on social media. Like, I don't even know why I take my time to do this. Like,
See
it
that.
doesn't mean anything. It's an annoyance. It's a hindrance to
Mhm.
my life.
Mhm.
But at other times, it's kind of like the best. But I don't know. It's like when I'm in the middle, nothing good comes out, but nothing bad comes out, but nothing really good comes out either. Nothing that is it's good in the sense that it maintains. I
Mhm.
think is maybe it maintains, it keeps things going, but it doesn't push things to where they could go. Um,
Mhm.
but but it saves you from where they could go on the negative end too.
Yeah, I think it's a choice that you have to make that, and I see a lot of value in having those really super high ups. It's great. You know, uh like romance, you know, like romantic attraction to someone can make you feel like you're on drugs all the time. Like you're just floating around and you're in love and it feels great. And that leaves you vulnerable, though, to crash on the other side, whether it's because that person doesn't feel the same way or because it didn't work out or because you just suddenly lost interest. But either way, you've lost the chemical, you know, fun and spiritual, whatever it means to you. Do you want to give that up forever? No. I mean, it's the greatest feeling in the world, right? When you're falling in love with somebody and things like that. But it's just being aware, and there may come a time when, and I think we've had this conversation before because I was like, oh, you know, I'm not that interested in romance in my life right now. Why? Because I get, you know, there's other things that I'm doing that give me that interest and that spark and that kind of, you know, and it's more cerebral and it's more about like what I want to leave in the world and stuff like that. But if I met somebody tomorrow and I felt like that, would I say, oh, you know, I don't want to go those highs because what could happen? Some people do that. I don't think I would do that. I would go with the highs and just feel what it feels like again because it's such a great feeling. But then I'd be prepared for, you know, at some point it's going to crash. Not even because it didn't work out, but because like what you're describing in your relationship is what happens in long-term relationships. You have the ups and downs, but they're, you know, like you may not be flying with, you know, romantic feelings all the time, but you're hopefully not crashing either because it didn't work out. You're in that in between stage where you're still figuring each other out and what, you know, what's the other person's, you know, way of living and what's your way of living and living, you're still living that middle ground, you know, but it doesn't have to be gray. And if it does feel gray, then maybe what you're doing is still blocking out the good feelings that are in that middle ground, you know?
So, so what do you think? I guess what would your is it better to kind of be like the monk who's just kind of in the middle all the time, or do you think it's kind of like awareness, and it's up to who you are and how much you want to kind of, I guess, how much you want to play with that dopamine system.
Well, no, I'm throwing it back to you. What do you think? I mean, do you think you want to be in a situation like with your wife where you're always seeking those really intensely good feelings, or are you okay with, now that you've been together for a while, that you're going to, you know, live in more of that middle space? And maybe what she's trying to do is show you that it's okay to feel that that kind of happiness. Maybe she has the capacity for that that doesn't send her crashing unless you say something mean. Like you're too happy. I mean, what do you think? I mean, can you do that, or do you want to do you want to live in a more monk-like way, which has value? It's more peaceful. It's more uh, in the moment, or do you want to, you know, sway a little bit in the winds of good and, you know, feels great and doesn't feel great?
Well, I guess I'm thinking about this in two different ways. One is personally, but then also maybe a step removed, just trying to think philosophically and what might be a good direction or good advice to give other people.
Oh,
I think for me, I really did want that middle ground. I really did want that monk life
Mhm.
for for a long time. And I think when I started the content, that's where I was when I started it, because I was really tired of the ups and downs. Um, with relationships, with just how I was living, I was sick of it. So I really I didn't want to. I just wanted consistency and stability, and that was it. But I think with a relationship, there is a certain realistic. There has to be some ups and downs, because
Oh,
you're
yeah.
not the same person. So when it was just me, I could just go on in the middle of the road forever. But when you live with someone, you just can't, because you're two different people. And I think if you don't have the good times and you don't have the bad times, then you don't grow. I think the more of those you have, the more room there is for that middle ground.
Mhm.
And then with kids on top of that, like there's just no way to have the middle ground with kids.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think, and you also can't deprive them of that, because even though I'm kind of done with the extremes, they're just starting.
Yeah. They need to have those extremes. That's what makes them grow and think and be creative. You made me think of social media, and particularly I for whatever reason, I may be right or wrong, I despise Instagram because it shows what you're talking about. Like, there's so many accounts on Instagram of people who are married and they have kids, and they film and they show this world where everyone's really happy and we love each other so much, and look, we're all wearing the same outfits and we learned this dance. Like, my family would never do that. Like, we were all scraping and scrapping and trying to figure things. I mean, nobody, like, who lives like that? But you think that people live like that and that your family then is a complete, you know horrible disaster. And it might be, but what you're describing is reality. And we don't have a situation in our world right now where reality is reality. So we live through the lenses of social media or instant gratification, or all of this stuff that has really, like, just going to get back to the corporations and the oligarchs and how they have used our nervous system to feed us, to kind of enslave us through these nervous system things with the social media, which is the constant dopamine hit, or the looking at social media and saying, I don't live like that, there's something wrong with me, and then you get addicted to finding more. Oh my god. And then, oh, look, there's an advertisement for money that I can pay to somebody to fix the fact that I feel like shit about myself you know so I think that, how do you feel about just being a normal family with a normal relationship that's not terrible at all, that has its ups and downs? It feels, I mean, what does that feel like? Is that okay with you? And is it okay with your wife and your children too? Because they count too.
For me, it's okay. I think actually for a while I almost got depressed about it, because I
Mm,
was thinking, it's not that I've lost ambition, but I think my ambition has been redirected, and I think my timeline for a lot of the things that I want to do or accomplish have multiplied 5, 10 times. Like, just thinking of a successful relationship, like when I was a kid, it was, can I get the first kiss, or, fill in the blank. But now it's like, can we make it to 80? And then that
mm,
sort of timeline is like, you don't get that hit. And I think with the kids too, like, can I make it to the time that they have kids? Or like, now that I'm working, I work out a lot more seriously now, thinking like, because I can see my parents can't play with our kids like they really want to, because they haven't taken care of their health maybe the way that
mm.
they should have. And so I think these really normal things, they're not glamorized. They're not sexy. You don't see it on social media that much. And I think a lot of the times when I get on calls with people that I coach, and I pretty much just explain to them, like, yeah, I create content and I do this stuff, but like I'm some super normal. And maybe odd in the way that I am normal and try to live very normally, but I think it works for us. I know it's not going to work for everybody, but what the social media thing showing you, all the good, all the positive, all the stuff that's going to get you engaged. When I look at that, I try to remember a lot of it's like trying to solve a math equation that you don't have all the information to. Like you can see you can see the outcome, but you can't see everything that went into it. And for me, at least, knowing what's coming in and out of my life and feeling comfortable with that is a lot more valuable than trying to go for something that I don't know what the sacrifices are going to be. And maybe when I was younger, I was like, okay, that looks great. That looks great. And I'll get into something and, I'll figure everything out. But now that I have, the wife and especially the kids, like I don't, I'm not going to bite the first hook I see or the second hook I see. Like
Mhm.
I'll get sucked into some videos and everything, but always, even I think maybe from the view of a creator, knowing that my life isn't what I portray on social media because it's 10 seconds of a 24-hour day that I have.
Mhm.
Like it's the clearest thought that I have that I'm trying to share with you because that's the most valuable thing that I can give. But if you were to look at how I came to that 10 seconds of content, like I'm not sure you'd want to live it. And I try to remember that when I'm looking at other people's content too.
But it's authentic. You're not pretending to be like some guy who lives in a, monastery and you spend your whole day, contemplating life and then you come out and give a 10, minute piece. You're living life and you're talking about things that are very authentically experienced, authentically felt, and authentically analyzed. And that's different than a lot of the manufactured stuff that's out there. And I think what happens though is that the manufactured stuff gets a lot of attention and a lot of money and a lot of like you're giving people exactly what they want. And you're not necessarily giving people what they want, but you're giving them what they need.
And that has been, excuse me, that's been difficult because, like you said, there's not a whole bunch of money thrown your way for doing that.
Mhm.
And I think when TikTok and Instagram first, Reels got really popular and TikTok was really popular, we were getting millions of views a month just for me making that 10-second whatever. And, ads were coming in and everything. But I think as more people came in, and whether those be authentic people or people who are manufacturing content or organizations manufacturing content, everything slowly started getting less and less.
Mhm.
And to the point now where, like, it's by no means, um, I would say it's modest, and I get to do what I do, and I get to make a living from it. But um, I guess it's a choice. You can I choose to keep it that way because that's what I like doing, and I think that's valuable, no matter what the views say. Um, but on the other hand of that, it'd be just as easy to say, I know what works the best. I know what gets under people's skin after a
Mhm.
few hundred videos. I think I know what really kind of gets the algorithm going,
Mhm.
and just kind of run that to death and make more money. But the more I think about that, it's not how I exactly want to live. It doesn't give me any sense of positive feeling to do that.
Mhm.
But I think that is sold on social media a lot. It's sold on TV a lot. Like, I don't know, get this thing or do this thing or live this way or wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and work 12 hours a day or, get
Mhm.
those, get the body modification stuff. And because it like it's good marketing, it's good sales, it makes people, it sparks something in people, and people
Hey,
go to it, but it's not, and for some people it's not going to be their deathbed, but it's not always the best thing for people, and I do think a lot of companies know that.
yeah, they don't care. I mean, what they what they're doing is I feel like this is the thing that happens. So you see a commercial that really tells you you can have everything you want. Optimize now, right? And suddenly you're what happens in your brain, and I'm making this up. I'm not a neuroscientist, but what happens is in your brain is you start to picture, ooh, this is what my life's going to be like if I get this thing. And you feel really good because now you've got that picture in your brain, and all those nice chemicals go through you, and you say, okay, where's my credit card? Because I need to get that so I can get that feeling that I just imagined I was going to have when that thing happened. When that thing happens, like, I lost the weight, or I made $1 million, or I, whatever it was that they're selling. And that feeling that you got when you imagine that, when that commercial came on for that, is what you really want. And you think that you have to get that product in order to make it happen. But really, it's all inside your brain already. And you just have to tap into that again and imagine how you can make that happen. And maybe that thing is going to give you great advice. I don't know. But what I have realized about, for example, weight loss is that after learning and understanding how entrenched our bodies are to be the weight that we are, most of us are genetically programmed to be a certain weight. And all of the stuff out there about, well, we'll do this and you'll lose weight is hitting the brick wall of genetics, and or that everybody has a different, what's the word I'm looking for? Biology or whatever that gets that how we process food. And so that's why there's a million diets, because there's a million people and everybody requires something different. Anyway, that the thing may help you, but more than likely you're not even chasing that thing or that solution. You're chasing that feeling inside that you really want to have. And when you do that, you get to maybe pull it apart and say, do I really want that $1 million? Or do I really want to be 110 pounds? Or do I want to feel a certain way? And maybe that feeling comes not from having $1 million, for example. Maybe it's just about having a house in a pretty, nature area. That's really what you wanted, but you thought you needed to get. And that's where that self-awareness comes in, because you don't need that Amazon thing to set right away. You just want that feeling of having that thing. And whether you get it in 10 minutes or you get it in 10 days, you're still going to get that nice feeling. So what's the rush? Right? And then how can you translate what that feeling is into something that's truly attainable and is authentically what you want, not just that burst of dopamine that's making you feel really great right now. And same thing with looking at social media, where you see like, oh, the family's all so cute and they also love each other and everybody's doing nice things to each other, and just turning a look at your family and saying, well, what are those kind of moments that we create? And maybe we just create them in a different way. And or how can we create them in a way that doesn't look like a social media creation? So what I'm trying to get at is that we are being used by a system of capitalism to manipulate our feelings into spending money for things that don't actually make us happy, and that what's inside of us is the need for that authenticity to come up that says, this is what you really, really, really want. You want someone to say, I love you every day. You want or you want a situation where you get to be in nature, or you want a situation where you get to do your hobbies all the time. That's more authentic than, buy this thing and you're going to feel really great. I don't know if I can clearly lay that out, but it makes sense in my head. And that's partly why I'm so angry, because we keep being led like like buy our nose, to buy more stuff and, worship more rich people.
It's almost kind of, it's not funny. It's sad in a way, but I like to I like to laugh when I can. It We're being, in no like doomsday sense, we're being exploited.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to say that almost as flatly as I can. It's just good old exploitation of our
Mhm.
human systems and emotions.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like I, I'm not sure we can beat our own systems. I think we need to use our own systems. And like if companies and corporations can exploit us for their gain, I think, in the same way we can exploit our own human
hmm
tendencies for our own gain.
Ooh, I like that. So the way that you unhook yourself from that exploitation is you game yourself. Don't let other people game you. So I can't be swayed by Amazon sending me something the next day. I've unhooked myself from that system. I don't need that. I don't need to go look at as somebody who has, is I'm 80 years old and I look like I'm 30. I don't need to do that. I don't need to, and by doing that simple act of changing myself inside beats the system, beats them so that they don't have power over me. We can talk about systemic powers, and how that plays out, but that's really another thing. But in terms of my mind, at first, don't let them have control of my dopamine system.
Yeah, everything and everyone is going to give you a sales pitch. And after spending, I don't know how many hours trying to come up with my own sales pitches and sales scripts and everything, like I don't use them anymore
Mhm.
because they're manipulative. And like a good sales script, like the best sales script is going to be someone who tells you what you need to buy something you actually probably should buy.
Mhm.
But it's still relying on the wrong method to get to something that you need. I think even if you take a second to say like, these pants, you get a sales script, these pants are going to make you look this way, 10 pounds less, more muscular. Um, they're so on trend. And then like, you can't take that sales script for your own thinking. You almost have to come up with your own sales script. Like, that's not actually what I want. Or you have to be able to take all this information coming at you, all this marketing, and say, that's actually not what I need, or that's actually not what I want. But I think to do that, you have to have enough information about yourself to know what you want, and then also be okay not being given a template on your way to go get it.
So how do you sell then? What would be your methodology for giving somebody, like putting it out there and saying, this is what I have to offer?
Um, putting myself, I kind of like the content and stuff, just putting myself out there and just saying what I feel like saying. Like, or being very blunt, like, hey, I think you need this, or like, hey,
Mhm.
I don't think I would ever actually say that to someone because I don't want to act as if I know what's best for them, because 10 times out of 10, I don't.
Mhm.
But I know what's best for me most 8 out of 10 times. And so
Yeah.
doing what's best for me, and someone takes interest and says, oh, like I like the way that he thinks, or I like the way he does that, and that might be useful to me, then then I try to provide a space or an avenue to connect with that person so that they can learn more about something that might benefit them, not in a way that says like, you need this, or I need to sell you this, or I'm the only person that can give you this. But here, let's talk about it. Let's see what you need. Let's work on it. And then if they want to work with me or something, then this is how you do it. Here's that information. It's like you give somebody the information that they need to make their own decisions only when they come to you with pre-existing interests.
Yeah. Well, I that's the difference between manipulation and establishing yourself as an ethical business. I'm not anti-business or anti-capitalism. I mean, we need to be able to to sell what we have. And the thing is the lack of ethical, actions. And what you do when you come on with your social media is you establish yourself as an ethical person. And then and by not selling, you establish yourself as an ethical person. And then that makes somebody say, now, if you suggest something to me, I'm going to be more inclined to say, this is coming from you trying to help me, as opposed to you just taking advantage of me. And I think that's very valuable to do.
As a consumer, I like being given that. I like my autonomy.
Well, it's respect too, right? I mean, like, it just respects your autonomy.
I feel like I feel like manipulation and bad sales is almost an insult to, this is going to sound egotistical, but like, is an insult to my autonomy and my intelligence.
Yeah.
Like, just give me the information, give me the price, and I'll make my own decisions. Don't try to like weasel me into something.
But modern advertising, there's a guy who, I think he's recently passed away. He was a researcher in psychology, and he established a lot of the rules for advertising. No, they're not the rules, but the kind of principles that people in advertising use. And so things like make people afraid. If you don't get this, everybody else is going to have it, and you're going to be the only one who doesn't, and they're going to take advantage of you. Make them seem inadequate. There's just all these little tricks that they do that are psychological tricks. And when, the place where I worked at, where we sold those magazine ads, the woman I worked for told me something I'll never forget, that 100% of sales is emotions. People think, oh, I'm very rational. When I go to buy a car, I, make sure they have a certain, gas mileage or whatever, safety record. And I'm very rational, and I don't care about stuff like color and luxury. And the emotion comes from them thinking and feeling like I'm making a rational decision. So you appeal to the person's rationality. So if you're a really good salesperson and somebody, comes into your showroom or or you're online trying to sell to them, you pick up on those cues of what is emotionally driving them. Do they want to be like better than everybody else? Do they want to not be as bad as everybody else? Do they want to feel like they're making a really rational decision? And you can manipulate people with that. And that's another example where once you become aware that you make decisions on an emotional basis, then you can stop doing that and start pulling yourself out of those systems that manipulate you or us.
Maybe I want to add in that I am not someone who does not enjoy commercials or good marketing or good sales when I see it, because it does speak to your emotions. It makes you feel good. Like seeing the bag.
Sometimes make you cry. Like, oh, it's so sweet.
And I think that's important, but just not to the extent that it leads someone to something that isn't going to be good for them. Sales still needs, like, businesses are still going to be here. Vendors are still going to be here, and a lot of life is kind of sales and negotiating and this for that, trading. There's really no way around it. But like you said, like, if you can just be ethical about it, because it causes a lot of harm when you're not.
Yeah. But I guess what, to take us back to the beginning of the discussion, the thing that is bothering me right now and the anger I feel is that there are a lot of vulnerable people who are right now extremely vulnerable because our government is all these systems are being taken over by people who really know how to use technology and their money and the power to move levers on the political, make rules that benefit themselves. And that leaves us even more vulnerable than we were 6 months ago. And what I think, if there's one thing that I hope people can get out of this, is that if you see what I'm saying about, this is that matrix thing again, is that if you see how this matrix is established around you, you still have power to unhook yourself from that system by being aware that you're being manipulated, by seeing how what's happening is playing with your neurobiology, your emotions, and finding ways to get what you need and want in life that do not involve these systems that are not only existing but becoming more and more powerful day by day. And I don't know if people see it the way I do. I don't know if I've explained it properly or clearly, but I think the bottom line is just be aware. Start being aware.
It definitely cannot hurt.
It can never hurt. Yeah.